Hello, Snob Free members. Just want to do a quick review on the Tennessee Arms AR308 lower receiver polymer hybrid. I don't know if anybody's ever looked into these, but they're polymer and then they're reinforced with brass inserts at high stress areas. This is not my build. I'm actually helping a buddy with this. But I wanted to do some first impressions and give you a quick review about it. The lower parts kit that I installed on it is a dirt cheap lower parts kit for the AR308. He got it from OutdoorSportsUSA.com. Forget how much he paid for it, but it's definitely cheap for a reason, and I'll get into some of that as I go through it. He's not going to be using this grip. This is actually just an extra A2 grip that I had from spare parts, so I put that on just to test the safety and everything. So he's going to be changing that out. The lower parts kit that he got was minus the grip and the fire control group. He decided to go with a flat trigger CMC drop-in. Really nice. I've used those on a few builds. Really nice triggers. They're like 3.5 to 4 pounds. He also got the K&S anti-rotation pins. They will actually not work with this lower receiver, and probably also some other AR308 receivers that have this kind of ridge along the lower receiver. And I'll explain that. Basically, with the K&S anti-rotation pins that uses this bar system, it's basically too fat to fit inside this ridge. And there's just enough clearance to use the pins that CMC provide with their trigger. So I was able to get the pins in and get the set screws locked into place. But he did kind of want to go with these, but they're not going to work. So we're probably going to put these on his AR-15 build that I helped him with before. The parts kit, like I said, is cheap. It works. It's not pretty. As you can see, like the safety selector, some of the finishing is kind of rough. It does work. It's not the smoothest, but it does work, and I'm sure that'll loosen up the more play with it. Like I said, the pins were from CMC because you kind of have to use some kind of anti-rotation or some kind of locking pins to make sure that the pins stay in. Big problem that I had was with the magazine release. I believe this kit more than likely is MIM, which is metal injection molded. You could correct me if I'm wrong on that. I'm not 100% sure, but I know basically it's a cheap way to fabricate parts. And they, that kind of stuff does work. In fact, I think Taurus, most of their metal components are metal injection molded for like pistols and stuff. But the problem was, which I'll show pictures included with this post, is basically it wasn't properly finished, and I had to take it to a bench grinder and kind of smooth it out a little bit so it would fit. It hung up a lot, and it wouldn't freely move. But now, after I played with it a little bit, it now moves very smooth. It doesn't hang up, doesn't catch, so that's good. Another problem I had was with the bolt catch or bolt release. It came with a threaded pin instead of a roll pin, which is pretty typical with an AR308 lower. But with Tennessee Arms, it uses a standard roll pin that is used with like AR-15 builds. So I can't install that yet until I go buy, or he goes and buys a roll pin for the bolt catch. So that is just kind of on standby. The pins aren't bad. They move fairly good. They're a little tight, but that's kind of typical. They don't line up perfectly, probably because of the spring tension with the detent. It kind of tilts it just a hair, so you have to kind of, whenever you completely take it out, you then kind of have to wiggle it a little bit to get it to fit right. Same thing with the rear. The rear is actually even tighter, and both of the detent springs for both pins, I had to actually snip a little bit off the springs because they were too long. I was actually kind of excited when I first opened the kit, just because the springs weren't like black coated, which usually means they use substandard materials and they have to coat the spring. But it was like that chrome silica whatever spring material, so I thought it was going to be great. Turns out I think they were out of spec, or could just be Tennessee arms. I'm not sure. I'm not really finding any problems with Tennessee arms, the actual like receiver. It seems built pretty well. I mean, there is finishing issues, which most people complain about, just because it is molded, and as you can see, like these areas, pretty sure that's where they actually inject the polymer material that they use. So, you know, that stuff could have been finished a little bit better, but I mean, he spent, I don't know, I think it's around $100 or a little under for these polymer AR308 lowers. His big thing was he wanted to get laser etched his unit, and they offer that as like a side option for any of their polymer receivers. You can give them whatever image and they'll laser etch it, or some kind of way they etch, you know, whatever you want onto their polymer lowers. But for the most part, you know, it feels solid. You know, time will tell, and also actually building it and shooting it. But those were the main issues that I had so far. And I think that was more with the actual lower kit than the lower receiver from Tennessee Arms. He also got Magpul PRS stock, which weighs a brick, but it's solid. I mean, it's built like a friggin' tank, and it's really nice. The adjustment, I guess, knobs, or you know, the gears that you turn to adjust length of pull, and also your cheek weld, like the cheek rise, they are a little tight, but I'm sure once you work those a little bit, that'll smooth up a little bit. Also, another thing I wanted to say with the just side by side, the color that they use for Tennessee Arms is a dead match. They list it as Magpul OD green, and I mean, it's when you put them next to each other, they're identical. They look really good together. So Tennessee Arms is, you know, on point with their actual color. But as far as that, that's about it. If you have any questions or anything like that, I'd be happy to answer them. And until I get him to buy the receiver extension for the rifle length receiver extension, I can't actually, you know, mount the stock yet. But this is something that it's kind of a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde type of build. He went with the poly to keep weight savings down, and to keep it lightweight, because he wanted to use the PRS stock, which literally feels like a cinder block. I'm kind of half joking, but the thing is it's heavy, but I mean it is solid. So he wanted to save weight with the lower by going with the PRS stock. So it's a cheap lower receiver, but then you've got a $200 stock. You've got a cheap lower parts kit, but then he ran with a CMC flat drop-in trigger. So the whole thing is kind of a mashup of great parts and maybe substandard, or, you know, sometimes, you know, we'll see. It is a polymer lower. Like I said, it's solid. I happen to like it. I mean, it feels good in the hand. It feels a lot better than like ATI Omni hybrid lowers. But like I said, time will tell. Got to get it built, got to get it shot, and shot a lot, and we'll see how it handles it. But yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to ask, and I'll talk to you guys later. Thanks.